watching Weasel News.
My name is Tarquin Janus McFall. My son, Bazil McFall. My father, Daniel McFall. And my close friend, Arthur Cain, are also all being falsely accused of a murder of my niece, Hunter. This is absolutely an abomination from the legal system. I don't know how they've conjured up this lie. Cassius Black has had it out for us since day one. I have the strongest hope that the verdict will be given us not guilty, as them three men are innocent. The only crime they've ever committed is being part of a loving family.
Agreed.
Well,
should we get a picture?
As you probably
top
know,
of
the
the
McFall
steps?
family are very into charity
Let's
and
get a picture on the
giving
top of
to
the
some of the
steps.
less fortunate. So if any of the maybe homeless community of the city arise to this occasion,
Should we face this
we'll
way?
be sure to feed them. And during my time outside, I'll be making sure this protest is completely peaceful, as we would not want any ill intent towards any of the officers of the law. Thanks, brother.
I'm going in. I love you guys. Group hug. Group hug.
Free the bro 10 times. He's done nothing wrong. Damn Cassius Black to hell.
Damn Cassius Black to hell. Right, I've got to actually get.
Alright, this court is now in session. I am Circuit Judge Julian McGrath, and I will be presiding over this case today. Before we get underway, I would like to review a few ground rules in my courtroom. Obviously, there's been a step up in security, and I have a few extra courtroom rules I will be putting in place. No hats or masks are to be worn in the courtroom that conceal someone's face. If it's a hat that doesn't, then that's fine. If you leave this courtroom at any recess, you must be searched again and show your ID before you will be allowed back in. There'll be no exceptions except for on-duty police officers and SAS agents. All persons involved in this proceeding shall remain polite and courteous for the duration both amongst each other and with the members of this court. Members of the gallery are to keep noise to a minimum and are also expected to be courteous and respectful. There will be a zero tolerance policy for anyone seen to be or perceived to be attempting to interfere with these proceedings or attempting to cause disruption. Anyone found in violation of the rules of my court may find themselves charged without trial for contempt of court and possibly even obstruction of justice. Now that we're clear on the ground rules, I wish to make it clear that with me is my bailiff, Richard Starr, and he shall be handling the security of this proceeding. We have SAS agents and police officers, including SWAT on hand, for everyone's protection. All right, so today this court will be hearing the case of 2023 CM 163, State of San Andreas versus Daniel McFall, Arthur Cain, and Bazil McFall-Bertstien. Can each of the defendants please rise and state their names for the record?
Your Honor, I'm already risen.
Hey, just state your name.
Bazil McFall-Bertstien.
Thank you.
I am Arthur Cain.
Your Honor, I'm Daniel McFall.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. You may be seated. Also, was there any possibility of a chair, Richard, for Mr. McFall, or no?
Turn down the chair I placed because it was not an office chair.
Okay. Mr. McFall, if you get tired at any time, you can sit in that first row there if you need to.
Fantastic. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, with that being said, is the prosecution and defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense is prepared to proceed, Your Honor.
Excellent. All right, prosecution, can you please read the charges for each of the defendants?
Yeah, sure. For Daniel McFall, it's going to be 1 times accomplice to aggravated first-degree murder. For Arthur Cain, it's going to be 1 times accomplice to aggravated first-degree murder. And for Bazil McFall-Bertstien, it's going to be 1 times accessory to aggravated first-degree murder. think that's it. Let me just double check.
I believe there was a charge for attempted first-degree murder as well.
Oh yes.
That was amended.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Yes. And 1 times attempted first-degree murder for Bazil McFall-Bertstien.
Your Honor, that charge was on a separate docket, was it not?
No.
We didn't merge his entire docket. We split the docket in half.
Yes. So it's going to be 1 times attempted first-degree murder for the attempted murder of Lucas Lloyd, and then 1 times accessory for first-degree murder for the death of Hunter McFall. And then for the other docket, that's a completely separate case, which is going to be 1 times attempted first-degree murder also, but that's not relevant here.
Your Honor, if we could verify on the merger line.
Yep, let me double check real quick.
Just want to make sure. It was very confusing. Oops, sorry. It was very confusing on the splitting of the dockets.
Okay, the case that was merged with this, the charges were 1 times accessory to aggravated first-degree murder, and 1 times attempted first-degree murder. On the other docket that's being presided over by Honorable Judge Kinsley Murphy, that one is 1 times attempted first-degree murder.
Your Honor, we're prepared to proceed, but yeah, that wasn't. None of the attempted first-degree murder charges were agreed upon. Your ruling in the pretrial conference to be transferred into this one. So
yes, they were, because you asked.
That's fine,
for
Your Honor.
You asked for the kidnapping to be dropped due to the statute of limitations.
That was before even. I'm not going to argue over it. Just continue, Your Honor.
All right. Prosecution, would you like to start with any opening statements?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm ready.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you. My family all left me when I moved to Los Santos. Adoption would allow me to share my wisdom and really help guide Hunter in her life. The unique experience of parenthood will be really good for me as my sons don't speak to me anymore. It will give me a purpose since being retired. I really just want to help people. I want to build upon a rewarding and meaningful relationship by taking Hunter under my wing. A declaration of love and care by Mr. Daniel McFall to Mrs. Hunter McFall-Black in October of last year. This statement was given to the Coronado Group in representation of the defendant's desire to adopt a daughter looking for a supportive, loving family who will protect her at all costs. However, Mrs. Hunter McFall-Black's life was cut short 6 months after her adoption. This isn't a tragic accident. This was a malicious, premeditated, brutal murder, not by an outsider, but by her own family, her own father. The case the state will be presenting today will describe and detail the final tormented days of Mrs. Hunter McFall-Black, the events of her cold-blooded murder at the hands of her father, and the cold and calculated acts these 3 individuals took to attempt to cover this up and blame the one person who truly loved her, her husband. Leaving a statement made by Mr. Daniel McFall in October describing care and love, now shallow and cruel. Today, the state seeks justice for Mrs. Hunter McFall-Black, a woman manipulated by the defendant, and when she saw his true colours of was no longer a servitude to her father or his cause, death was the only escape given. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Defense, do you have any opening statements prepared?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of court, media outlets in attendance, and all of the law enforcement agencies here, as well as the defendants and the state prosecutor present. I would like to first thank you guys all for your time in watching the administration of justice. First, I want to speak on to what it means to administer justice. Administer justice doesn't mean finding somebody guilty of a crime. It means finding the truth of a crime and either acquitting or finding somebody guilty. An acquittal is still an administration of justice. When we look at these charges, the first two charges presented against Daniel McFall and Arthur Cain are going to be accomplice to aggravated first-degree murder. When we look at that charge, there's a very clear definition that is required and a burden for the state to meet. There are multiple points on that burden that have to all be met in order for the charge to stick. We do not believe that the state, through their evidence, will be able to show beyond a reasonable doubt that any of these burdens are actually met in this case. As for the accessory charge also has the same burdens plus a couple. And those we do not believe the state will be able to prove in this case beyond a reasonable doubt. Two of the state's key witnesses, one of the individuals that was on scene when rangers arrived, is not even present here in court today. The second individual is also not present. And through his deposition and his testimony, or interrogation as I would like to call it, because it's not considered testimony, presented multiple factual inaccuracies and even changed his story on multiple occasions. You'll hear him admit to, when he arrives on scene later in the deposition, to taking a picture of a body and texting it to somebody. I don't know anyone that would care about somebody enough would go and take a picture of their dead body and send it to somebody as one of the first things they do when they arrive on scene. Your Honor, we'd ask you to consider all the evidence once it's presented to you today, and hopefully you find an acquittal for all three defendants in this case. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, the state, and thank you, everyone, for your time attending today.
Thank you. All right. We will go ahead and proceed with the prosecution starting. If you'd like to, please call your first witness or present your first piece of evidence.
Yes, the state would like to call Ranger Ophelia Dean to the stand.
Okay. Ranger Dean, if you could approach the bailiff and be sworn in. The witness stand for today is going to be held here on the my left-hand side, the court's right-hand side.
Raise your left hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
All right, please be seated. Should you swear?
All right, Ms. Teal, you may proceed when you're ready.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Do you mind if I just stand here just so it's easy for the media and stuff?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Hello, Ranger Dane. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. If you don't mind, could you talk me through the events that occurred on April 17th, 2023?
I believe that is the day when I arrived on scene for Miss McFall-Black. It's been a while, so the dates are kind of blurry. I believe that's the right day. I was on patrol in Vinewood State Park when I noticed that a 911 came up on my system, not too far, but outside of jurisdiction. I remember going on shared radio, seeing if, since I was close, if they need any assistance. I do remember that day. It was particularly, the best way to call it was the city was on fire that day. Fire and Rescue did request that I go to that 911 just because there are murder kitties in that area. So that's part of our main job as rangers, is making sure that people are safe with wildlife. When I arrived on scene, there was one individual, looked like performing medical on Miss McFall-Black. I later, got his name. But when I first got there, I focused on the medical first, just because EMS hadn't arrived on scene. So I checked her pulse. She had no pulse. I began performing CPR while looking over any injuries. While I was performing CPR, I did notice that there looked to be some kind of bullet injury on her head, but I still just performed CPR as I'm not a full medical professional. I waited for Fire and Rescue to get there. Once fire and rescue arrived, I stepped back and let them do their job, and I did get the individual's name as well as a brief statement from him. I don't know if you want me to go into that now or later. A second individual arrived on scene. I got a statement from him, but then fire and rescue did call her deceased. I called a detective at that time to see if they wanted to arrive on scene, but they were all busy, so I documented the scene as best as I could, gathered any evidence, whether it be blood or I believe some bullet casings were found. And then I waited for medical professionals to arrive at where we were. I just, at that point, I just stayed with the body, answered any questions medical needed from me, and made sure that she got to pillbox as safely as possible before passing off evidence as well as a report to MCD.
Okay. Sorry, Your Honor. I believe one of the defendants.
Yeah, he's just taking a quick nap. We can proceed, though, Your Honor.
It's being handled.
Okay, do you want me to continue, or do you want me to wait for him? I don't
Yes,
mind.
please continue.
Okay. And who was this first individual that was on scene?
The first individual was a Rocky Laws. When I had a moment to just talk to him, once fire and rescue had arrived and took over, he had told me he'd been looking for somebody that he said was kidnapped, and he had found her as I found her. He just found her there on the side of a dirt road.
Okay. And who was the second individual who arrived?
The second individual was a Cassius Black. He was also looking for Hunter, that was her husband. He was obviously very emotional at seeing her in that state. I didn't quite get a statement from him until after I had escorted medical back to Pillbox.
Okay. And I know this is a while, so I do apologize. To the best of your knowledge, roughly how long were you there before Mr. Black arrived?
I would say maybe between 5 and 10 minutes, if I can. I'm trying to remember as best I could. It happened all very fast, but I'd say between 5 and 10 minutes.
Okay. And what was the statement that Mr. Laws gave to you when you took it?
It was just, he was just saying he was looking for her, that she had texted him earlier that day or that evening that people were after her. And that's all I can really remember from that statement, is that people were after her, so he was looking for her, and then he had found her there.
Okay. And the area that you found Mrs. McFall-Black, give me a second so I can get the exact location. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Was this by the, I don't know how to pronounce it, Great Chaparral area?
I believe so, yes. It's just outside of Vinewood State Park, but it still has a lot of dirt roads, kind of starting to lead into the Harmony Sandy area.
Okay. And while you were on scene, did you notice anything strange about Miss McFall-Black's injuries?
Other than the bullet to the forehead, that stood out to me. But like I said, when I got on scene, I performed medical until fire and rescue arrived on scene. I didn't make the determination whether she had already passed or not.
Okay. believe that's all the questions I have for this witness at this time, Your Honor.
Very well. Defense, would you like to cross-examine?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. How are you doing today, Ranger?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. First, I want to thank you for your time testifying today. Understand, it's taking time out of your probably already busy schedule.
It's no problem at all.
So, you stated you received a 911 call and arrived on scene for that 911 call. Is that correct?
Yes, it came in from the first individual that was on scene that he had found his friend and she needed medical attention.
Okay. Before that 911 call was received, did you receive any 911 calls for any kidnappings, anything of that sort?
No. I'll be honest, that particular day, I think I had been on duty maybe half hour, 45 minutes, so I had just come on duty, essentially.
Yep. And when you showed up on scene and you noticed another individual was there, and I'm presuming you took over medical from that individual, is that correct?
Yes, just because Rangers do get a little bit of an extensive medical training when we are first hired on.
And at any point in time, did you detain that individual that was on scene?
Just because I didn't know her injuries, I didn't want to presume, and I can't legally call her deceased or whatnot. Once fire and rescue did get there, I did pull him to the side, detain him, question him, get a statement from him.
Okay. And from what you noticed in her injuries, was she shot? Was she stabbed? What happened?
Like I said, she was shot in the forehead. That was the only injury I did notice when I was working on her.
Okay. And at what time did you GSR test Rocky?
I did not.
So you didn't GSR test the only individual that was detained on scene?
No, because there was no shots fired that even came from that area. So I had no reason to assume it might have been him.
Okay. So you have no reason to assume that any shots took place in that area, is that correct?
That would be correct. I did find shell casings there, but I got no alert in that area, so I don't know if maybe it had been on her person or somebody else's person and had dropped.
Okay. But noticing there's shell casings in the area and an individual's just shot, shouldn't you be concerned that an individual on scene could have been the one that shot them and GSR test them at that point?
I would have been more concerned about that should there have been a shot in that area. Like I said, I started patrol and I had nothing except for that 911 there.
Okay. Does every time a firearm goes off in the state, does it trigger a shots fired call?
For the Rangers, yes, because there's a multitude of weapons that are used for hunting. So we kind of keep track of who might be hunting where, and that's typically when we get them.
Okay. And you stated this was outside your jurisdiction, though. Is that correct?
Yes, it was. It was just outside.
Okay, so this would have been outside of a hunting zone.
Yes, but we still get those calls, even if they're outside of hunting zones.
Okay. So at no point in time was there any shots fired call in that area at any point?
Not while I was on duty, no.
Okay. Do you know if any other Rangers showed up to assist you?
There was one other, but he was just there very, very briefly to just make sure everything was okay, because like I did say, there are mountain lions typically in that area. That was my biggest thing, is to make sure anybody there wouldn't be harmed by wildlife. But he was there very, very briefly and then left before I assisted the medical personnel and got them back to Pillbox.
Okay. And for Mr. Black, when he appeared on scene, can you kind of walk me through what he did the second he arrived?
He was emotional. I think that's very much an understatement of what I can say, is that he was emotional. I'm sorry, it was a while ago, so I'm trying to remember as best as I can. He didn't get in the way of medical or fire and rescue that were on scene doing their job, but he was nearby. He's very distraught. He said a few things which I did note, and when I took my statement from him, I kind of reiterated that, but that was at Pillbox. yeah, he was just upset. A lot of crying, a lot of probably anger, just by his tone of voice.
Okay.
But that was it. He didn't really do much while we were there, while we were at Pillbox that I saw.
All right. So you stated that he didn't interfere with medical or any investigation of that sort. Is that correct?
Not that I saw, no.
Okay. So you never saw him come in contact with the body?
No, I didn't see any of that. He was close, but I never saw him come in contact.
Okay. So I guess at the point that he was in the area, was he around you? Were you always around the body? Kind of give me your positioning.
So she was found right next to a dirt road. Obviously, there was, an ambulance. There was my vehicle. I did my best to kind of stay as close to the scene as possible, as well as assist where needed to. I never fully left the area or out of sight of the body until medical professionals showed up, and that's when they took her to Pillbox.
Okay. Have you reviewed any of the exhibits for today?
I have not.
Okay. Your Honor, is it okay if I ask questions in relations to Cassius Black's deposition? I realize it'd be hard for her to review all of it at this time, considering it's quite lengthy.
You haven't seen it at all, Miss Dane?
No, I haven't. I'm sorry.
Obviously, if it's something that she would not know, having not seen that, I would say refrain from asking questions about it, but you can ask of her experience of what Mr. Cassius Black has relayed to the court via that deposition and interview.
Okay, perfect. That works. Thank you, Your Honor. So in Cassius's deposition, he states later on, after quite a few rounds of questioning, that he took a picture of the body. Did you witness him taking a picture of the body?
No, I did not.
Okay. And then he also witnessed when he arrived on scene, the first thing he did was ran up to the body and was holding the body.
No, I didn't witness any of that. He did go to her, but I didn't witness him holding the body. I honestly do not remember him holding the body. I remember him sitting next to her, but I don't remember him touching, holding, anything like that.
Okay. And I guess, was this immediately when he arrived on scene, he went over to the body?
Yes. There was a moment of pause where I was trying to figure out who he was. But the other individual knew him. So I figured there was a connection, and then I asked him, and that's when I had that conversation and pulled him to the side while Fire and Rescue was doing their work.
Okay. Is it typical on a scene to allow an individual that's approaching the scene to approach the body?
I'll be honest with you, I never. This is probably a very rare occasion where I've had to deal with somebody we would call DOA. So there was a lot going on. I did try to talk to him. There's not much I can do when somebody just brushes by me. I did pull him aside once he identified himself to me as well.
Okay. In a situation where an individual is, let's say, not deceased, and they're on the ground bleeding, is it typical for a passerby to just be able to run up to the body?
In my experience, I've dealt with hunting injuries, cougar injuries, and I have had people come over, make sure everything's okay. In this case, something like this is very new to me. Again, in my experience, I've had people come assist. I've had others who may have been around or on scene, or that might have been their friend that may have been hurt by some kind of creature. That's my realm of experience.
Okay. Have you at any time received proper training on how to deal with a situation like this?
With
a murder.
A murder? Not extensively. I will be very honest, not extensively with that, which is why as soon as fire and rescue arrived, I did call someone from MCD.
Okay. And the individual you called from MCD, did they give you any directives on, how to handle the scene, do anything like that?
Mainly just with documentation, as well as just making sure if there's anything around, collect the evidence for that, which is what I did. I did put in make a report for. I'm sorry, I made an internal report from the Ranger Department to MCD, and then I did send that up to them.
The shell casings that were found. Do you know how many of them were found?
I believe it was just one. Like I said, this was a while ago. I do believe it was just one. I can't. I'd say one, maybe two, but one is more of what I'm remembering.
And did you gather that evidence, or did another law enforcement officer?
I gathered that evidence, and then I passed it off to the MCD detective I had contacted. This was after the fact, as they could not come to the scene, as they were all held out.
And who was that MCD detective?
I believe that was Detective. Oh, I'm gonna butcher her name. Achika Akita.
Okay. And after fire and rescue arrived and they were transported, they transported the individual to Pillbox. Did you follow them to Pillbox at that point?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And do you remember what parties were all present at Pillbox?
There was quite a few individuals there. Mr. Black was there, and that's when I fully pulled him aside to get a statement from him on the matter. But none of them could go back to see her just because MCD wasn't available to examine her first.
Okay. And did you collect the statement from Rocky on scene, or did you do that one at Pillbox as well with the black one?
I collected the one from Rocky on scene because fire and rescue and medical had just gotten there. And that's when I got the statement from him. And then when we left, just because medical had wrapped up, that's when we got to Pillbox is when I got the one of Mr. Black.
Okay. And the statement made is that the Rocky laws stated that Miss McFall-Black texted him saying that people were after her?
Yes.
Okay, so the statement consists of 2 sentences?
That was all I got from him. He didn't know much of the situation himself. He just knew that he got a text from her, and he was worried, so he was out looking for her.
Okay. Did you ask him any other interrogatories?
I don't know what that word means. I'll
questions.
be honest.
Did you interrogate him?
No. I mean, I just asked him if there was anything else he knew, and he just said no. I personally didn't feel the need to keep pushing on that, especially when it seemed like I was just asking the same question but reworded multiple times.
Okay, so you didn't find it pertinent at all to ask him how he knew where the body was?
I mean, from what he told me, he was just driving. He was driving by, and it wasn't on a main road, but it is a road that I found her on that people do drive through.
And you didn't find it pertinent to ask the individual, Rocky, about how he knew the individual was kidnapped?
I mean, from what I gathered, he and other people were out looking for her.
Okay. And at any point in time, did you ask if he contacted law enforcement about the individual being kidnapped?
I want to say I did, but again, it's been a while. It's been several months, so I don't think I can answer that. I don't know how well I can answer that one for you. I want to say that I did ask him, but I can't remember.
Okay. If you did, his answer wouldn't have been pertinent enough to be placed inside of this statement. Is that correct? Because this is the entire statement.
I believe it would have been, but like I said, I can't remember off the top of my head.
No further questions for this witness at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Prosecution, would you like to redirect?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Ranger Dane, when you spoke to Cassius Black, did he state how he knew where the body was?
I don't remember.
Okay. And during the time at the hospital, at any point were her emergency contacts contacted?
Don't think that's necessarily something we would do.
Oh no.
I mean,
okay.
I believe that would be more medical.
Okay. All right. That is all the questions I have this with, Your Honor.
Okay. Defense, do you have any further questions for this witness?
Yeah, just one question, Your Honor.
Sure.
While on scene with Rocky, did you witness Rocky make any phone calls?
Not that I remember, no.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, prosecution, did you have any other questions?
No, that's it, Your Honor.
All right. At this time, Ranger Dane, you are free to go back to your seat in the gallery. Just be aware you might be called at a different time and are still under oath. All right. The state can present their next witness or piece of evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state would like to call Lucas Lloyd to the stand.
Okay. If Mr. Lloyd could please approach the bailiff and be sworn in.
Raise your left hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right, you may be seated. Just sworn in, Your Honor.
Your Honor, if we could
Thank you.
request to approach.
Sure.
Do you want me to, Donald?
Have
Yes.
to. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still waiting.
All right, before we begin with the questioning of this witness, Ms. Dane, the defense and the prosecution have agreed that they would like to release you from subpoena. They intend to ask no further questions, so if you'd like, you are free to go and may exit through one of the safe exits that SAS will direct you to.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, prosecution, whenever you're ready, you can proceed with questioning.
Thank you so
of this
much. I
witness.
appreciate it. Hello, Mr. Lloyd. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm good, thank you. Do you prefer your legal name or Blue Bionic? I'm fine with either.
In this setting, my legal name.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Can you just talk me through the events of April 17th, 2023?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for a narrative.
I'm asking for him to talk me through.
That would be a narrative, Your Honor.
Okay, I can rephrase.
Please do.
Okay, thank you. So on April 17th, 2023, you uploaded a document to Twitter.
Yes.
And the contents of that document was in regards to the McFalls.
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
No, I'm asking if that's what the contents of the post was.
Yeah, but you haven't. I can help you if you just want to ask what were the contents of that post.
Donald,
it wouldn't be leading.
I don't need help.
Well, that one is leading, Your Honor. We're gonna object to that.
I'm going to sustain the objection. Can you please rephrase the question?
Sure. What was the contents of the Twitter post, Mr. Lloyd?
The Twitter post consisted a note that I had gotten from Cassius Black in which he wanted me to put out that he had written. Off the top of my head, I don't remember like the full contents of it, but I know that that's what it was.
Okay. I'm sorry, just to clarify, you said that Cassius Black gave you this document?
Yes.
Okay. Did he state why?
He did. Just trying to remember off the top of my head. Sorry.
That's okay.
Primarily, I think he just stated that he just wanted me to get it out there because he was concerned for his life. Something along the lines of that.
Okay. Okay, and sorry, bear with me. I'm just reading through this. Okay, so after you posted this this Twitter post, what happened?
Like what happened that day, or just in general? Because a lot happened afterwards, but that was, I'm pretty sure, a few days prior, afterwards.
Okay, that day.
That day, after posting the post, nothing ended up really happening that day. Yeah.
Okay, but you said a lot happened a few days later.
Like, I don't know the exact timeline, but eventually after posting it, I had gotten kidnapped for it.
Okay, do you want to elaborate on kidnapped for it?
Yeah, sorry. I forget the exact date in which it happened. Or, sorry, again, this was a long time ago.
No, it's okay.
So I just forget the exact timeline. But I do remember that after having posted the tweet, I had then gotten kidnapped at some point afterwards, and basically questioned by someone about the Twitter post, and then I was asked to post a new tweet instead in its place, retracting the statement.
Okay, do you know who this somebody was?
I don't know off the top of my head their name, but I I had their phone number because they were trying to get to me for several days.
Okay. So you were in communication with them prior to this?
Yeah, they were trying to
Your Honor, meeting.
I can rephrase.
Okay.
Please do.
So you say that somebody tried to contact you?
Yeah.
Okay, could you elaborate on that?
Well, after I had posted the tweet, I was getting calls and texts from someone, an unknown number, basically asking for superhero assistance, trying to meet up with me consistently, and just asking me for all different kinds of things for, like, consistently for, like, a few days.
Okay. And do you remember much of kind of the events of your kidnapping?
I do.
Okay, would you like to elaborate on that, please?
Yeah. So what had happened is I had driven into the Kokoro Plaza to park up my car, and what ended up happening is once I had parked my car and I started walking out of the parking garage that we have there, there was a black SUV with a man in like a full green outfit standing there, and he got out and pointed a shotgun at me and asked me to put my hands up, in which I did, and then he put me in his car and then started driving away with me.
Okay, is that all?
Do you want me to like go through like the entire like full scenario, like everything that happened?
Everything you remember, if possible,
Okay.
please.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he had then driven me for a while. He was talking to me about different stuff. I don't remember exactly through the car ride, but what I do remember is he then took me to a bridge, underneath a bridge, I believe on what is it? The Great Ocean Highway. And he had then told me to get out of the car and put a shotgun to my face and started talking to me. He started talking to me about the message that I had put on Twitter, the document that Cassius had asked me to post. And he then claimed that he was hired by Cassius Black or something. Claimed that he was with him and that Cassius wanted to retract the statement and wanted me to post something instead. So he threatened me, telling me to post something, and then eventually it ended in him stabbing me in the stomach and shooting me with a shotgun twice, in which I fell unconscious.
If you have access to the docket, correct, Mr. Lloyd?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. If you could look at Exhibit 11A.
I may need some help finding that.
No, it's okay.
I can send it to you if you need, Mr. Lloyd.
It's going to be docket line number 29.
Yeah,
If
just
that helps at all.
give me a minute.
No, it's okay. Take your time.
All right, yeah, I have that up. Sorry, but
Okay. If you just want to have a look at the first text message.
On
11A, Exhibit 11A.
Okay, yep.
Was there... I'm trying to think how to word this. Give me a second.
Mm-hmm.
Was this a text message you received?
Yes.
Okay. Was this during your kidnapping?
Yeah.
Okay. And from the best of your memory, did the individual that was kidnapping you, did they pull their phone out?
They did.
Okay. And what did they say to you?
They said that they were going to send me the message they wanted me to tweet.
Okay. And then, did you tweet this before or after you were shot?
It never actually got tweeted.
Okay. And why was that?
Because I kept asking why and kept asking questions, and eventually I ended up just getting shot before I could even post it.
After this instance, was there any more communication between you and this individual?
I don't personally recall.
Okay. That is all the questions I have for this witness, Your Honor.
All right. If the defense would like to cross-examine, you may do so.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Lloyd, I noticed earlier Raven Teal alluded to a blue bionic. Do you mind telling me what that is?
It is me.
Okay. So is that like an alias?
It is what I call myself when I try to be a superhero.
Okay. So, and by try to be a superhero, do you fight crime?
Not exactly. So.
Okay. What do you do as a superhero?
I try to assist people and help people wherever I'm physically able.
Okay. And were you trying to assist what Cassius Black was giving you as Blue Bionic or as Lucas Lloyd?
I was trying to assist him as Blue Bionic.
Okay. And when he gave you this message to post, did you validate the facts in the message?
What do you mean by that exactly?
Do you have proof that this message is true?
I didn't have any solid proof, no.
Okay. Without any solid proof, you still proceeded to post it on Twitter, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you ever ask for any solid proof?
I didn't ask any questions to Cassius.
Okay. I guess why did you post it then?
It personally felt like it was the right thing to do given the situation.
Because... Are you friends with Mr. Black?
No.
Had you ever met Mr. Black up to this point?
Yes, I had.
About how many occasions?
I'm not entirely sure, but I know that I had met him because I had texted him previously, and he was in my contacts. So.
And did Mr. Black say why he gave it to you?
I believe he did. Yes.
Do you know why?
What's it? I'm pretty sure he simply just said that. He just said, "You're a superhero, so can you help me?" or something along the lines of that.
And did you meet him in person to get this? Did he text it to you? Did he email it to you?
He texted it to me.
And after that, did you have any further conversation with him?
After that, what's up? I think I only had texted him that day, and I think I had sent just a message reassuring him that I was going to put it out, and that was about it. I had not texted him anytime after that.
Do you typically see it fit to tweet out stuff without any evidence?
Your Honor, objection relevance.
It's directly relevant to the case, Your Honor. This case is based off of that being fact.
I'm gonna overrule the objection.
Sorry, could you ask the question again?
Yes. Do you typically post things without facts?
Sometimes. Depends on the context.
Okay. Are you posting these as satire?
This I did not, but has been times in which I have posted stuff for satire, yes.
Okay. And what differentiates this position this time versus the satire times?
Because this seemed like much more of a serious scenario that involved someone's life.
Okay. So you simply posted it because someone died. That'd be correct?
No, that's not the reason why.
Okay. What was the reason you posted it?
The reason being because I got this I got this text, I wanted to help, and it seemed like it was the right thing to do, and I had asked numerous friends of mine who know Cassius Black and have talked to him personally and have known him longer than I have to see if it was actually a good idea to post it before I initially actually did.
Okay, and what friends did you speak to?
One of them was Billy Eagley.
Okay. And what did you and Billy speak about?
I simply just told him about the message and asked him what he thought of it and if I should post it. He never directly said no. He said it's, whatever feels right to you. I believe he said something along the lines of that. This was a long time ago, so... But, yeah.
Did he present to you any further facts backing up the statement that you made?
He didn't present any facts himself.
Mr. Lloyd, do you understand what libel is?
I've heard the word.
Okay. Do you understand you can get in trouble for posting false statements about individuals?
That would make sense.
Okay. So what encouraged you to post something without any facts? If you're aware that you can get in trouble for posting false statements?
Just simply based on what I had heard from other people about the people involved, it seemed like it was the correct thing to do.
Okay. So everything that you've heard about the situation is purely based off hearsay. Would that be correct?
Sorry, could you clarify that?
Yeah. One sec. Let me think of a different way to word hearsay. Everything based off of what you did and what you posted is based off of what others have told you.
Yes.
Did you at any point in time try to investigate this at all?
No.
Okay. Did you reach out to any individuals involved in it and try to talk to them?
I didn't know who else was involved besides the McFalls mentioned in the message and Cassius.
Okay. And where you sent out the tweet, did you go to law enforcement at all?
I had tried to, and I had heard that somebody else who had also been given the message handed it over to law enforcement as well.
Mr. Lloyd, are you aware what collaborating statements are? Statements that work together?
I not exactly, no.
Like two statements backing up the same fact presents more evidence than one statement backing up a fact?
Yeah.
So did you not see it fit to try to present the exact same message again?
I had been down at the police station for an extended period of time, and I had called a few times trying to see if anybody would actually come down, but then it didn't, so I just decided to leave.
Okay. And then, so after you tweeted out, did you continue to try to contact law enforcement on it?
After I tweeted it out, no, I did not.
Okay. So you didn't see it to be important enough to follow up on with law enforcement. Is that correct?
I don't think it was. It wasn't exactly. I didn't see it was important enough. I just didn't simply.
Okay. Let's go. Let's go to the individual that took you, real quick. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. So an individual took you at gunpoint. Is that correct?
Yes.
They took you to a location. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you mind one more time for the court stating what that location is?
It was under a bridge on the Great Ocean Highway.
Okay. And then you had a conversation with that individual about the tweet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you had that conversation with that individual, did they present any facts to the otherwise?
They didn't present any facts, no.
Okay. Did an individual during that time period send you a text message with a statement made?
Did I get a text with a statement?
Yeah.
From some? Yes.
Okay. And that statement was
so.
the Blue Bionic posted a false report on April 18th claiming the McFall family killed Hunter McFall, and he had me post that message to set them up. Sorry, I read the first sentence and the last sentence just to try to...
Yeah, that was the message that I believe I got. It was also written in a note.
Okay. And then I guess I'm curious on why you didn't tweet that one out if you tweeted out the first one when both have the exact same facts presented, which is none.
Because... what's it? It just didn't seem... It didn't make sense to me that the situation was happening and that what the guy was telling me was true. So I was hesitant to post this.
Okay. If someone lied to you and was publicly defaming you on Twitter, would you be upset about it?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you not see that an individual might be upset if you lied about them on Twitter? Lied about them on Twitter?
Yeah, that would make sense.
Do you think it's fair for them to be upset?
I mean, yeah, upset.
Have you ever gotten upset with somebody on Twitter?
I mean, probably, maybe once or twice.
And then after you were given medical and in the hospital for this incident, at what point did you get the second part of the statement from Mr. Black?
What?
The amended statement, second part amended, however you want to call it.
I'm confused as to what you mean.
So there was the tweet you sent out that had the first statement. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then there was a second, more detailed statement made by Mr. Black that he provided to you.
Oh, that Cassius had sent me a Google document through text, and that I had only discovered way later on that it had been changed and updated with more facts. That was not during the same day.
Okay. Well, what day was that on?
I believe that was the day of my second kidnapping that happened. I don't know exactly the day. I don't know it off the top of my head. I could probably look for texts that happened on that day, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. And did you ever tweet out that the amended statement?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did you ever talk to law enforcement or anybody about the amended statement?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Who did you speak to?
I believe it was Amelia Drake.
And that would be Amelia Drake from MCD. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you go to the police station? Did you give him a phone call?
I was
Kinda
taken
how
to
did
the
that
police
conversation happen?
station.
Okay. In rough estimate, how many days after the original statement that you tweeted out was it? Roughly within a couple days, hopefully, but
I believe the second scenario happened quite a while after the first statement, if I'm remembering correctly. I feel like it was over a month or so. I want to say, I'm not sure. Like I'm really not sure on. My memory's very hazy on that.
okay. But most likely over a month. Would you say that?
Probably.
But less than 2.
I'm really not sure.
Okay. No further questions for this witness at this time, Your Honor.
All right, State, would you like to redirect?
Not this time, Your Honor, no.
Okay. Do either the prosecution or the defense intend on calling this witness at a later time?
Defense does not intend on calling the witness as a rebuttal witness, Your Honor.
No, the state doesn't either, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Lloyd, you may return to your seat in the gallery, or you may leave. We're releasing you from subpoena, and you're free to go.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Would the state like to present their next witness or next piece of evidence?
Yeah, the state would like to call Stafford Johnson to the stand.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, could you please approach the bailiff? We have a Stafford Johnson present. Okay. We're going to assume at this point that Mr. Johnson has not appeared in court. So if you'd like to continue and call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state would like to call Dr. Danny Walker to the stand.
All right, Dr. Walker, if you could approach the bailiff.
Raise your left hand for me. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Right. Thank you, sir. You may be seated. Ms. Sworn in, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, prosecution, you may proceed with questioning when you're ready.
Thank you so much. Hello, Dr. Walker. How are you? Good. Were you the doctor that performed the autopsy on Mrs. Hunter McFall-Black? Okay. And what was the cause of death? Okay. And what was the time of death? Is that Eastern time? Okay, thank you. If you don't mind, if you could just go into sort of for detail about the state of the body when it was first presented to you. Okay, and the one through her forehead, was this a, how do I word this? Was this from the front of her head or the back of her head? Yeah. Was the entrance wound the front or the back of her head? you so much. Was there any restraint marks on the body? No, it's okay. Okay, and to the best of your medical, I guess, knowledge, the extent of her injuries, would you say this was from close range or short range? Sorry, close range and long range. Sorry, my apologies. Okay. Okay. And when you arrived on scene, did the body look like it had been placed there, or that she was killed there? Okay. Those are the questions I have for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Defense, would you like to cross?
Yes, please, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Doc, how's it going? First of all, thank you for your service to the state. I really appreciate everything you guys do. First question for you. When exhuming the body, you stated that there was just a frontal entry. Is that correct? And there was no exit wound. Is that correct? Okay. And the individual was, you stated, shot by a shotgun. Could you roughly estimate the caliber of the shotgun? Okay. So there was BBs. So was there any larger fragments that would indicate a slug? How often do you deal with gun trauma? And do individuals that are shot with a shotgun at a close range typically have an exit wound?
Give Dr. Walker a second.
Yeah, Your Honor. Yeah, I'll repeat the question. Individuals typically shot with a shotgun at close range, do they typically have an exit wound? Okay. What about individuals that are specifically shot in the cranium? Can you explain kind of the evidence presented on the cranium of the shotgun blast? And what was the angle? Was it down? Was it up? Was it directly face on? Okay. Were there any BBs or anything found lodged in the esophagus or any of the neck? Was there examples of extreme pressure on the cranium? Okay. And typically, from your experience, GSWs that happen relatively close to the individual that is experiencing the GSW, is the pressure buildup higher or lower? Okay. And when you received these fragments, did you collect them and give them to any officers for evidence? Okay. And when you state when you arrived on scene, it looked like the body was placed there. What was indicative of it being placed there or dumped, as you said? Okay. Can you explain the markings on the body? Okay. And how far was the body located from the road? Was there how much blood was present on the scene when you arrived? Okay. And were you the individual that declared the time of death? Do you know who declared the time of death? How long after seeing the body on scene did you exhume the body? Okay. And where was the body placed in the meantime? Okay. And who all has access to that cold storage? Just pillbox medical personnel or all medical personnel in the state? Okay, so fire, rescue, none of them. SAFR, they don't have access to it? Okay. Did any other doctors come in contact with the body in the meantime while it was waiting to be exhumed? Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. State, would you like to redirect?
No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Are both parties agreeing to release this individual from subpoena?
State is, yeah.
Defense is not calling as rebuttal, Your Honor.
Okay. Dr. Walker, you can return to your place in the gallery. You may stay, but you are also free to go, and you are no longer a subpoena. All right. Does the state have any further witnesses or pieces of evidence they'd like to enter to the court?
Yeah, I have evidence, Your Honor. I don't have any further witnesses. Okay, I can send this list to you guys, both you and the defense, but I'll read them off as well.
If you just want to, is it just the state's exhibits that you submitted to the court earlier?
Yeah, obviously minus the ones that you denied. I just put them in one document so it's easier.
It's A1 through A3, B, C1 through C9, D, E1 through E3.3, F1 through F3, G1 through G3, H1 through H2, Exhibit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9A, 9B, 10, 11A, 11B, 12, Exhibit K, Exhibit L, Exhibit K, Exhibit M, and Exhibit N. Is that correct, Raven? I just want to make sure that I...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Steele.
Okay. I do have a clarification question on this. Let me just find it real quick.
Okay.
Okay, it looks like Exhibit J, it said the tweet history of Lucas Lloyd on April 17th, 2023, between the hours of 1800 hours and 23:59 hours to enter as Exhibit J1, and the tweet history of Daniel McFall on May 6th to enter as Exhibit J2. Were those ever obtained and submitted to the court?
So Exhibit I1, I2, I3, I4, I5, I6, I7, I8 were all, I'm still waiting for them from IT. There's nothing that I can do that is something out of my control. The same with Exhibit J. I'm still waiting. This is, again, something out of my control. I've tried, but it's on IT.
I understand. Just because it's there and there's not really any evidence to consider there, I'm just going to go ahead and strike it from the record.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I think that's the only concern I have. I think that was there ever an affidavit for Seth Kennedy entered?
Yes, yes, Seth Kennedy, yes, Billy Eagley. We never received an affidavit from Billy Eagley.
That said, it was Billy Eagley that said that they could not attend. I was instructed to submit an affidavit. Okay. Alrighty, we will go ahead and enter all this into evidence. And is that it for the prosecution?
Yeah, that's it, Your Honor.
Okay. If the court is okay with it, we'll have a quick 5 minutes, let's make it 10-minute recess to allow people to stretch their legs, use the restroom, get something to eat. We'll return for the defense's questioning.
Where's the smoking area?
All right, we're going to go ahead and proceed. If the defense would like to call your first witness or present your first piece of evidence.
Yes, Your Honor. Our first thing we're going to do is call a witness, and then we'll probably have some motions pending, depending on the witness.
Okay.
So we're going to call Amelia Drake to the stand.
Okay. Is Corporal Drake in attendance?
No, Your Honor. Corporal Drake is currently on an LOA.
Okay. Do you have another witness you'd like to call?
Nope. But we will be motioning for a couple things in regards to that. The first thing we're going to be motioning for is criminal contempt of court and obstruction of justice for Amelia Drake, as she was a subpoenaed witness and never notified the court that she would not be present.
I don't have her on my list. Let me double check.
I can give you the docket line where she was subpoenaed, Your Honor.
Sure.
She was actually subpoenaed by herself. She was requested to be subpoenaed by herself. Docket line 14. She's the first person in the subpoena list.
Your Honor, if I may, you never approved the subpoenas from Amelia Drake.
We never once objected to any of those subpoenas, Your Honor.
It went to a pretrial conference where you requested for me to resubmit all of it, which I did.
The evidence, and that is correct, which you did, and I appreciate that, but I never requested a reissuance of subpoenas.
Okay, I found that line. I'm going to look up directly what I had ruled on after that pretrial conference. Okay, so State versus Arthur Cain was merged. So was Bazil McFall-Bertstien's for charges that related to this case. The charge of one-time kidnapping was dropped. Evidence was resubmitted. I said to the state that I was reviewing the evidence. Since there was an updated exhibit list, I asked if there was something that was still needing subpoena or if the witness list had changed. And then in the amended witness list, Corporal Drake was not added to that list.
Your Honor, she was never. We never objected to her being subpoenaed. That the original motion for her being subpoenaed would still be in court, even with the amended list. The amended list is just amending the filing. They did never in the amended list did they recuse her from a subpoena. She's a pretty pertinent individual to this entire case. We had multiple officers testify. Well, not officers. We had a couple officers, as well as we had multiple individuals testify that she was the individual she spoke to. She was the one that gathered and handled all the evidence, which we have asserted through testimony today.
Okay, so
and with her being released from her subpoena, if you're okay with that, Your Honor, we just ask for all evidence gathered and collected by a released subpoenaed witness to be stricken from the record.
Okay, looking at the docket, I did not make a ruling on those subpoenas as we were going to have a pretrial conference and a merging of cases. So therefore, I just waited for everything to be merged into one. The subpoena request for Amelia Drake, I don't think was ever approved.
Okay, Your Honor, we're going to review exhibits and motion for strikes then.
Okay, which exhibits are you motioning for strike?
Exhibit C, all of them, as they were gathered via Amelia Drake's warrant request. Exhibit D only, on the same grounds.
Okay.
Exhibit E. Exhibit... Exhibit E, all of Exhibit E. Exhibit F. We weren't allowed to question the witness on any of it or contest any of it. Exhibit G, all of it. I think the rest should be okay. No, so exhibit 9, A and B, because we can't do the test of validity. Exhibit 11A and 11B. And exhibit 12, as there was no one to testify to the validity of the ballistics report.
Okay, so you're motioning for all these exhibits to be stricken from the record because Corporal Drake is not here to answer these questions about these, correct?
She's not here to pass the validity test for the submission of evidence. The defense is required to be allotted the ability to question a witness on evidence being presented by that witness. This evidence is presented by Amelia Drake, and up to this point, we're not able to question the witness. Now, it's not our job to call the witness to testify. That'd be the state if they're looking to submit the evidence via that witness. So, I mean, it's purely on grounds of validity, Your Honor. None of it has stood the test of trial.
Okay. So, Amelia Drake was called as a witness originally, but that subpoena was never approved due to asking for an amended witness list after all the cases had been merged. So there is no subpoena for Amelia Drake. Secondly, the defense did not object to any of this evidence being submitted in the first place.
Correct, Your Honor, because we were waiting on the witness to testify to it before we could object to it. We can't object to preemptively based off no testimony. It'd be in bad faith, Your Honor.
Right, but you saw the list of people that were approved for subpoena, right?
I saw a list. I saw multiple lists, and I saw a subpoena was requested for Amelia Drake, and she was on the witness list. You do not have to be subpoenaed to appear in court and testify, as Your Honor knows. And why would I require an individual to be present in court to testify to evidence that they're exhibiting against my defendants? That would not be acting in the best interest of my clients, Your Honor, and that would, quite frankly, end up in a SABA violation.
Okay, because Amelia Drake is a law enforcement officer, and officer testimony is considered a little bit
Correct. There's no testimony, though, Your Honor. Testimony only happens in court.
I'm going to overrule these motions for these to be stricken from the record at this time. All right. Do you have any other witnesses or evidence you'd like to present, or any other motions?
Yeah, motion for a directed verdict, Your Honor. I'm ready to explain the directed verdict whenever.
Sure.
Yes, Your Honor. The motion for directed verdict is simply that the state has failed to meet the minimum burden required inside of the state criminal code. The state has to prove that the individuals were present on scene at the time of the crime, or in the case of Bazil, that they're obstructing the actual crime that was being committed. For an obstruction charge or an obstruction to happen, the statement made by Lucas Lloyd have to be based in fact, which he admitted via testimony today that it was not stated in fact, and that it was just sent out. And then on the other two individuals, there's been no testimony today at all, placing them on the scene of the crime. There was no testimony regarding a shots fired call. There was contradictory testimony on moving the body versus not moving the body. Inside of Cassius Black's statements, there's multiple contradicting things. Inside the deposition, he states different things than he stated inside of his interrogatory that he did with the state. The timelines changed multiple times. He stated he touched the body in the final one, in the deposition, and also stated that he took the photo after being questioned on it at length, which he never previously made any admissions to. The varying of the testimony leads to an unreliable witness, Your Honor, and unreliable testimony. And on those grounds, Your Honor, we'd ask for a direct verdict, as well as none of the evidence has stood the test of the courts. That was asked to be stricken. We get you accept it, but it still has not accepted the test of trial.
Okay, are there any objections by the state?
Give us 1 second, Your Honor.
Sure.
Yeah, I got you.
Just to clarify, Your Honor, the text messages and the evidence that, or the evidence that that the state presented is still valid, correct?
Yes, all
Okay,
the
thank you.
exhibits except for the ones that weren't ever entered because the state was waiting on them.
Your Honor, it's valid but doesn't exist in testimony.
If I may, Your Honor. There is more than enough evidence here to be able to place both Mr. Daniel McFall and Mr. Arthur Cain on scene. There is a GPS location that was sent by Mr. Daniel McFall to Arthur Cain of the scene of the crime where Hunter McFall was murdered. As for Basil's accessory charge, that is due to the fact that he tried to tamper with Lucas Lloyd. And tried to get him to amend his statement that he made on Twitter to cover up the fact that the McFalls were responsible for the murder of Mrs. Hunter McFall Black. There is text messages there to prove that also. Basil texted the exact message of what Lucas Lloyd was to say via text. So the state would argue that there is more than enough evidence there.
Your Honor, quick rebuttal. The doctor actually testified that the murder did not happen there. We heard that in open court testimony today.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and overrule this motion. We're just going to go ahead and move to closing statements if both parties are ready.
If the state could have 5 minutes, please, Your Honor, to write a closing.
I'm confused on the motion, Your Honor. What were you doing?
I'm going to deny the motion. Would you like to rest your case, or do you have any other things you'd like to talk about before we move to closing statements?
Okay, and it's being denied on what grounds?
On
Sorry,
the
I just have to
grounds
add
of,
this for grounds of appeal.
I would like to double check all the evidence that was submitted before giving a ruling. I understand the arguments that you're making, but I want to ensure that I am going through everything thoroughly before giving a ruling.
Okay, well, we can take time on the directed verdict, Your Honor. It's typically standard for a recess to happen on a directed verdict motion for a ruling to take place before the courts proceed.
Okay.
And we're completely fine with the recess happening for that to happen, Your Honor.
Okay, either way.
As well
would
as
you
the
guys
state
like to
needs
do...
time anyways for closing, so.
Okay. Yeah, we're just going to move to closing, if that's all right.
Well, we're not sure because we're still waiting on a official ruling and the reason behind the ruling. We can't present any further evidence until the motion is fully ruled on, because we don't know what we don't know yet. I can't read minds, Your Honor.
I'm going to deny the motion for directed verdict.
Okay. On what grounds, Your Honor? Can we have the ruling?
I believe there's evidence to still review besides before making an official ruling. I believe the state has a case to review. I'd like to review that case before making a decision.
Okay. Your Honor, we would like to prepare for closing as well then, Your Honor.
Okay. We will have a 10-minute recess. We'll come back here at... Time zones are hard. We'll come back in 10 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We have 4 cameras. I did hear her say it.
Fucking shit.
All right. So we will go ahead and start with the prosecution's closing statements.
Thank you so much, Sherman. the courts, people of the gallery, the defense, and the media outlets, and anyone else present. Today you heard a case where an innocent woman's life was tragically taken from her on April 17, 2023. By officer testimony and evidence provided today, you heard that Mrs. McFall-Black was found with a gunshot wound that inevitably killed her. She was in constant contact with Mr. Daniel McFall leading up to her death. They had arranged to go to a coffee to discuss issues they were having, and not even a few hours later,
Not
Mrs.
yet.
McFall-Black was
Right
found
on
dead
this.
at Great Chapel off a dirt road. The exact location Mr. Daniel McFall sent to Arthur Cain 45 minutes prior to Mrs. Hunter McFall-Black being assumed deceased. Mr. Cain texted the individual 1 minute after Mrs. McFall-Black was assumed to have been deceased, stating, "She's been dealt with permanently." Now, while this location may not have been the murder scene, by the evidence provided by Mr. Daniel McFall's phone communications, we can place him at that exact location where his daughter was found deceased. As for Arthur Cain, he knew Mrs. McFall-Black had been, and I quote, dealt with permanently. And we know he received the location of Great Chapel from Daniel McFall. As for Mr. Bazil McFall-Bertstien, he tampered with Lucas Lloyd in the attempts to cover up the fact that Daniel McFall and Arthur Cain were responsible for the murder of Mrs. McFall-Black. Text messages sent to Lucas Lloyd by Mr. Bazil McFall-Bertstien shows that Mr. McFall-Bertstien texted Lucas Lloyd the exact message that matched with the note found next to Lucas Lloyd's body, which shows that the same individual who wrote the text message also wrote the note left on scene of Mr. Lloyd's attempted murder. This makes Mr. Bazil McFall-Bertstien an accessory to the crime of first-degree murder as per the Penal Code, a person who participates in the cover-up, I can't say this word, obfuscates or otherwise assists in concealing the individual from being apprehended or withholding evidence that would assist in the conviction. Mr. Bazil McFall-Bertstien was in direct communication with Mr. Daniel McFall during the time of Mrs. Hunter McFall-Black's murder. With all this evidence, the state asks that the courts find the defendants guilty and let Mrs. Hunter McFall-Black finally be at peace and away from the man who she once thought would love and protect her unconditionally. Thank you.
Thank you. Defense, would you like to give your closing statements?
Yes, please, if we may, Your Honor. Your Honor, prosecution, ladies and gentlemen of the court, media, I once again want to thank you guys for attending today to watch the administration of justice. As I alluded to in my opening, the administration of justice can take many forms. Guilty can be an administrative justice, an acquittal can be an administration of justice. The burden of proof in the state of San Andreas, as well as the rest of the United States in a criminal proceeding, is what we like to call proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is the highest burden we have in the courts. To meet this burden, there can't be any questions left in anyone's heads. So, Your Honor, if you have any questions in this case, that would be what we call doubt. If there's anything you have to review to verify and look at further without hearing testimony, that would be doubt. And if there is any point where there is a doubt or questions inside of you still, we would ask for an acquittal. Now, we can review the testimony that we were given today. We had a doctor testify that the individual was not murdered there, that the individual was likely thrown out of a vehicle that was moving, and then they rolled down the hill. The burden of first-degree murder, one, has to be premeditated. Very little evidence, if any evidence at all, has been presented to any premeditated intent, which would fail to meet the mens rea requirement as well. The mens rea requirement is that any criminal charge inside of the state requires intent. The second piece would be being present on a crime scene or being there does not strictly cause you to be arrested and convicted on that crime. Based off of the state's closing argument today, the individuals Rocky Laws and Cassius Black should also be arrested for the exact same charges. If that is the burden that we're trying to prove in this case, is being present on the scene of a crime, is all that is required to be convicted of accomplice to first-degree murder, those two, both through testimony and their own admission, were present on scene at the crime. The individual was shot. There was no shots fired calls in the area at all. The text messages that are presented to the courts never say, "I killed Hunter." They never have any admissions of guilt. They never have anything like that. When saying somebody has been dealt with, you can deal with things in many ways. I think it's completely and utterly archaic to think that the only way to deal with a situation is to kill somebody. And the state to make an admission that the only way, somebody has been dealt with is to kill them is absolutely absurd. You can have a civil conversation with an individual, which I believe is what happened in this case. Mr. McFall can have a civil conversation with his doctor or with his daughter and talk through a situation that, could be concerning them both. A father and daughter relationship is very difficult to deal with at times. Fathers make decisions their daughters don't like. Daughters make decisions that their fathers don't like. And the best way that we can look to resolve these situations is, through conversation and discourse. So no one is asserting that Mr. McFall didn't contact or talk to Hunter. That has never been an assertion from the defense this entire court case. I would hope that that's not even in the eyes of the court, that means a conviction of a crime. Being in conversation with your daughter should be a normal thing, and trying to settle, issues that are presented should be something every father should look to do to any of their daughters. And based off of all the evidence today, Your Honor, there is no way that we believe that the state has met any of the burdens, met any of the points beyond a reasonable doubt, and therefore we ask for a blanket acquittal on these charges. Now, as for the charge for the attempted murder of Lucas Lloyd, did Bazil do it? What does the evidence show? It shows an individual did shoot him. But if the individual is posting lies about them on Twitter, which based off of their own example given, their own witness they called even stated that he had no facts to present what he was posting on Twitter. And he even admitted that if somebody was posting lies about him on Twitter, he would be upset as well. He admitted that, some of his posts are completely satire. This one, we have no idea. He has no idea. He never questioned anyone. He never went further. He never tried to figure out before he posted. He just posted something he was given. And that is it. Throughout all of that evidence, we can simply look at it as an individual posted something false on Twitter, or not backed by fact, as stated by the witness that was testifying, and then something happened. That is all we know for certain. That is the only facts that have truly been presented before this court today. Once again, we'd like to thank the ladies and gentlemen of the courts, the media, all the SAS agents in attendance today in this administration of justice. And thank you, Your Honor, for your time as well.
All right, with closing statements concluded, we're going to proceed with a recess of about 20 minutes. So we'll come back around 8:36. And afterwards, we will proceed with the ruling.
20 minutes is pretty normal for rulings.
Just to update PD, there's going to be a 20-minute recess.
Thuggy Nuggies?
I thought he disappeared, but no, he was just at the back. I can't see. Apologies.
I think he lost track of me, Your Honor. We're good.
Okay.
I'm old.
Let's see here. Please bear with me. I will release a written full ruling on the docket at a later time. However, I'm just going to go through each of the charges and go over the evidence that was presented. Okay, so for each, these three individuals have both all been charged with accomplice to aggravated first-degree murder. Mr. McFall-Bertstien is facing an additional charge of attempted first-degree murder. We'll go over the accomplice charge. Oh, sorry. I'm going to make a correction here. Daniel McFall and Arthur Cain are facing each account of accomplice to aggravated first-degree murder. Bazil McFall-Bertstien is facing 1 times accessory to aggravated first-degree murder and 1 times attempted first-degree murder. For the accomplice charge, we have to look at all the conditions there. They all have to be met in order to convict someone in the state of San Andreas fully. Accomplice is a person who participates in the crime knowingly and voluntarily. The individual must be at the scene of the crime, or helping aid in the crime, and were involved in the committing of the crime. There's also an additional condition there that has to be of their own will and cannot be coerced or threatened into participation. We heard several testimonies, one from Mr. Lloyd, and if we refer back to both the testimony and deposition of Cassius Black, we find that these two statements given by people are conflicting. Also, the statements made by Ophelia Dane also conflict. Whether or not Cassius had been holding the body, or if the scene looked unusual, like the body had been moved, or if it had just been there. We have a shell casing there at the crime. We have no alerts of whether or not there were any shootings in the area, and the possibility that the body was just dumped there. So with all these conflicting statements, the court finds it hard to believe that the conditions of accomplice are met. There's nothing that particularly places these individuals, that being Mr. McFall and Mr. Cain, directly on the scene of the crime or helping aid in the crime. So for accomplice to first degree, and additionally first degree murder is defined as to cause the death of a person with premeditated intent that can be proved to be deliberate, planned, and targeted. We do see several text messages and GPS locations of where these were occurring and where people were pinged. However, nothing was ever explicitly stated that any of these individuals had murdered or particularly shot or harmed anybody. We have phone calls that occurred, but we only really know about the contents of those phone calls from the testimonies of those heard, many of which have been conflicting. So for those charges, for Mr. McFall, Mr. Daniel McFall, and Mr. Arthur Cain, we find these two not guilty of accomplice to first degree murder or aggravated first degree murder. In regards to Mr. Bazil McFall-Bertstien, we have the one times accessory charge. Accessory is defined as a person who participates in the cover-up, obfuscates, or otherwise assists in concealing an individual from being apprehended or withholding evidence that would assist in a conviction. They have to be there on their own will and cannot be coerced or threatened into participation. The court finds that even if this was Mr. Bertstien that did attack Mr. Lloyd, he didn't try to cover up or obfuscate something. Rather, this individual, did not really try to cover up or obfuscate. They just asked for a retraction and for something to be posted in its place. This was a public tweet. It's not really evidence that had been submitted to a court or private evidence that was obtained by law enforcement. It was a publicly made statement that was asked to be retracted. It's not really covering up something that is already public knowledge at that point. And didn't really withhold evidence that would assist in a conviction. Nothing was really withheld in this situation. And then attempted first degree murder is the other charge that Mr. McFall-Bertstien is looking at. Attempted first degree is to take actions that could be reasonably expected to cause the death of a person with premeditated intent that can be proved to be deliberate, planned, and targeted. We don't have any direct evidence that has been presented that places Mr. McFall-Bertstien directly at that location. We have a text message that was sent from Bazil to Mr. Lloyd, but did not admit any guilt. It was just proposed what he would like the tweet to be reworded as. it didn't necessarily try to obfuscate or anything, or place him directly at the scene, as Mr. Lloyd did not know prior who Mr. Bertstien was, or who was texting him at the time. We can also not prove with 100% certainty that between all these text messages between the McFalls, that necessarily there was a plan to hurt Mr. Lloyd in any way. I admit there is a lot of reasonable suspicion here, but there is no concrete evidence for attempted first-degree murder. So with that being said, this court finds that Mr. Bazil McFall-Bertstien, for 1 times accessory to aggravated first-degree murder and 1 times attempted first-degree murder, this court finds him not guilty. Let it be known, all defendants have been found not guilty. They are free to go. Mr. McFall did not violate his bail, so that may be appealed for. However, I believe that Mr. McFall-Bertstien did violate his bail, and that cannot. With this being said, this court is now concluded. Thank you for coming.
Get these fucking cuffs out of me.
Fucking get me out
Your
of
Honor,
this shithole.
I have a quick question for you, real quick. The state can.
Get him out of those fucking cuffs.
Get this innocent man out of these cuffs.
No,
Free the
she's not.
fucking
It's,
guys.
it's Kinsley Murphy.
Jesus fuck.
Let's get out of this shithole. Fuck this place. Open that
Anyone cuff
fucking
me?
door.
I'm
Fuck
not
off, I'm not giving
detained
statements.
anymore.
I've got jobs to do. Open that door now.
Cuff me from this chair.
Alright, I'm gonna go to the back because of the gasoline.
I want to fucking get out of here. Yo, Maxine, you want a statement? Fuck Raven Teal. Started today with an NFA. Lovely jubbly, just busted case. Yeah? Fuck Raven Teal. Write that in your newspaper.
Harry, get this.
No, Donnie, we're going for a
Get
beer.
us out of these fucking cuffs.
Damn.
Hell yeah.
Fucking
Feels
hell.
unreal.
I thought that was going to go the other way.
Now let's start the celebratory riot.
Right, what's it saying?
There he fucking is.
Okay.
Oh shit.
Let's go, Danny.
Speech, speech.
Well, thank you for all the support. It's been
Oh,
boring
yeah.
as fuck, sat in my business doing fuck all for the past 4 weeks.
He's doing a
The
speech right now.
$75,000 the police took off me for bail, I'm probably going to spend it on drugs.
Fuck yeah.
And, yeah, fuck Raven Teal. I'm off bail now, I can go where I want. The state
Yeah,
must
fuck
watch out.
Raven Teal.
Yeah.